Hello, everyone, and welcome to Connecting with Karen Nance. We have a very special treat today. We have John Amanam. He is the Immortal Cosmetic Art Limited. That's his business. Welcome so much. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Karen. Thank
And
you for having me.
it's a pleasure to have you. I am so excited that you took my invitation to be here. We are so blessed to have you, and I'd like you to share with our audience what a little bit about yourself, where you're joining us from, and what do you do?
Yeah, I'm joining you from Nigeria. I'm in the city of Uyo. It's southern Nigeria in a state called Akwa Ibom State. So I'm basically in southern Nigeria, Uyo. And I'm John Amanam, as she has rightly said. I'm the CEO of Immortal Cosmetic Art Limited, a company that specializes in the production of hyper realistic flesh covers for people of black skin color. And I'm the first African to create hyper realistic flesh covers for amputees and so many other things. I'm a researcher, I'm a sculptor, and I'm an artist. Let's use the word an artist. So thanks for having me, Kerry.
Of course. Thank you for joining us. So, we will show the audience a video a little bit later because it's fascinating the work that you do. So, can you tell us how you started this business? What made you get started?
Okay. So basically, I studied fine and industrial arts. I'm a sculptor, and I was a sculptor, and I'm still a sculptor. The whole story began some years back, say 2019 or 18 or thereabout, when my younger brother lost his fingers to an accident. And we tried to purchase and to get prostheses like flesh covers from outside the continent, since they weren't available at the time in the continent. And when what we requested for arrived, it was white. The flesh cover
Mm.
came white, and that led to my curiosity. I became worried because it had tampered with my brother's self-esteem, and I had to find a way of figuring out a way of creating flesh covers that were dark skin tone to restore his confidence. And then I began a research, and after a couple of time, um, a series of tests and trials, I got the solution, and that gave birth to the business of Immortal Cosmetic Art Limited. I actually did not think of making a business until I started seeing that so many people out there, so many Africans needed my service. People were reaching out to me. They wanted to hear from me. They wanted to share their challenges. So many people had lost a whole lot of limbs and couldn't find a way to fix them to match their skin tone. So basically, from that point, I decided to go into the business of trying to solve those needs, like from creating ears to creating fingers to creating breast forms to creating legs, arms, and the rest of them. It took a whole lot of research, and that's what has always been part of my journey, this far. So
And the
finally, I
yeah.
could ever I could give my a hand. After losing fingers, he finally could have a hand to use. His fingers were restored, though artificially, but he could make up for the loss of the body part, and his self-esteem was restored. So that's basically how the story began.
And it's the self-esteem that's so much of importance to all of us, right? Because
Yeah.
we want to feel whole in every way. And even those of us who have all our limbs, we're not feeling whole. So I can't even imagine what it's like to not to suffer from an injury or an accident or be born in a way that you're not happy with, and you provided it's a miracle actually, and I can't wait for our audience to see the video of this amazing work that you do. It's it's a skill that you've created, and my question is it that you can teach to others, or is it just you having to create all these, um, matching the skin and making the parts fit? Do you have a staff that can help you? Is it easy to teach, others? I'm just so curious about this.
Yes, it's a company, and an individual cannot run a company. We have staffs. I have over almost 20 staff with me. People have to work. It's a large market.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
broad field, and I alone cannot do it. I have a team. I have people working with me in different units of the company. So it's a company. I cannot, as an individual,
Right.
meet the needs of everyone. So I've trained people to
Okay.
be part of this team, to also make this work easy for myself and make it accessible to people, because we have a whole lot of clients from different parts of the world at the same time. So it's very important to have a team to work with, have a crew, um, a unit that specializes in working with myself. So I'm not alone in this.
Wow. Well, I can imagine that the all over the world, but specifically we're talking about Nigeria and other parts of Africa that are in dire need of your services. So how are they going to pay for it? Because I know it's an expensive process. How do people pay for it when they can't afford it?
A lot of people reach out to us, from different countries,
Okay.
sometimes from our country also. We have different kinds of clients. We have clients who've been on our desk for years, and we are very observant. Some of them are not financially buoyant to,
Okay.
to pay the bills. Some are middle class citizens. So we have programs. Once in a while, we donate to at least three uh, disabled people every year. We also have an initiative that invites well-meaning individuals, to come and look at some of our clients, to come and donate cash to some clients who have not been able to pay up, who have complained of lack of ability, to purchase these stocks. So that's one of the ways we give back to them and try to help them, though we cannot attend to everyone. And also different people reaching out to us from different places. Um, some are financially stable, some are not. Though it's business, but we also have considerations because it's more of an humanitarian work, which means that we are also giving back to the society. So we've created platforms that could come in once in a while. We've also established relationships with organizations who are willing to help a few people to achieve this by acquiring processes that are affordable. Although we hope the government someday would come in and also try to make these things available and accessible, because it's cash demanding. It's cash demanding. So we help some people. Some people also reach out and help some of our clients, and those who can afford to pay are also given the option of paying. You know, so that's how we go about it.
Wow. How many people would you say you've served since you started this business?
We've saved over 3,000 people have reached out to us. We've um, we've
Is it on a first come, first served basis that you sign up and if there's space available, or is it based on the severity of their needs, if they need more than one type of prosthetic? How do you make those decisions?
okay. They are basically a first time, first serve kind of service, because it's by order of demand. Who demanded first? So we have to reach out to people who have first of all contacted us, who have maybe made their payments, who are on the timeline, because we work with the timeline. So it's basically a first come first serve kind of service. Not really on the magnitude of the amputation. It's about the time the person contacted us, the time the person was able to make his or her financial commitments, and that's how we roll.
Wow. So, what would be your most challenging case that you've come across so far?
My most challenging case is I don't really have a challenging case as of now, but then I had my most challenging experience. I was just new into the business, and then like I said in my story earlier, I said it started with my brother. So what I came in for was to create a finger, to create a palm, and then I went back to my work as an artist, as a sculptor. I was doing some fountain work somewhere, and then I started receiving calls from different people all over the country, people all over the different parts of the world, saying, they've seen my posts. A blogger had shared my post somewhere, and I wasn't online. So people started demanding for ears. When they saw the finger and the palm, they felt I could create ears. They felt I could create legs. They felt I could create nose and all of that part, all of other parts. And then here was I, unprepared. It was just the first one of the research. I had just discovered how to create fingers, how to create palms. So the challenge was I had to go back to the board, continue my research. Since it's a self-taught kind of craft, I taught myself. I started researching on palms, researching on finger, legs, ears. That was my most challenging time. So during this period of time, I had to turn down offers. I had to rebrand myself. I had to remold myself. Readjust. Try. I now saw it that this is serious business. That means a whole lot of people need my service, and I need to be competent enough to meet the needs of all of these individuals. So that led to another series of research. So it's my most challenging time. And from then, we are still on the research, although we are still developing ourselves, we are still upgrading with the knowledge we've acquired so far. But it's not as challenging as at that time. Then it was just myself and say one person. But now we've grown to a team. So we now tackle challenges as a team. So that's the beauty of it.
Well, now would be a good time to share with our audience a video. There are several videos. I encourage the audience to Google John and his Immortal Cosmetic Art, and you will find a lot of wonderful videos. But let's take a look at this one, and he's going to share with us what we've watched in a minute. So we'll be right back. So,
wow, this is lovely. Wow, finally have my fingers back.
We have prostheses who are made of white skin. I rarely find people with black skin prostheses. So I want the blacks, I want Africans in particular to have a feel, to be closer, to have these needs solved within Africa.
John, can you tell us what we saw? Explain it to us.
Those are early times, some years back, I think 2020, was one of my oldest videos. Um, and those were works I had been doing at the time. So the beauty of this art is the fact that it restores confidence. Confidence restores hope. It restores comfort to amputees. What we do is humanitarian. It's restore. It's a business of restoration. It's a business of healing. So we have a whole lot of experiences from fingers, ears, nose, palms, so many parts we do, so many things we do. And the video explains to you that passion could actually lead to a whole lot of solutions. When you're passionate about solving issues, you definitely find an answer to whatever you want in this life. So my journey as an artist, as a sculptor, now a prosthetic artist, is that of consistency, is that of perseverance, and that of focus. I really need to solve problems. It all started with my brother, and now it's now a universal thing. It's now business. It's fun. Every time I get to see my patient or my clients use my products or my designs, I'm so excited. I look at the expression on their faces. I look at the excitement they have, and I feel fulfilled. I feel at least I've been able to live an impactful life. I've been able to reach out to a huge number of audience. I've been able to establish something in this life. So that's the beauty of the video. That's it, basically.
Well, you also have the TED Talk, and it is also amazing, and I encourage everyone to check it out. And what I'd like you to do now is share with us the highlights of your TED Talk, which is actually the reason behind your business, and what you've just described is helping people. But it comes from people that are indigenous to Africa, people that we assume that when somebody is talented that they come from somewhere else, but your goal and drive is to focus on the beauty and the brilliance and the skills of people on the continent. So if you could elaborate on that, that would be great.
Yeah. Watching my TED talk is very inspiring, even to myself. Even after I made the presentation, I still sometimes find myself going back to it to also listen to myself. I have come to realize that as an African, you don't need to travel out to solve a problem. You could solve your need here in Africa. Although the society does not, or the environment which we find ourselves is not convenient or does not provide for all we need to express ourselves as innovatives or as creatives. But we can always find a way of doing that if we can be passionate about what we do. In the TED Talk, I talked about solving African problems here in Africa. You find a whole lot of people trying to travel out. Innovatives from the continent have a percentage, a huge number or a huge percent of innovatives from the continent have been shipped out because of one, lack of finances. People need a convenient environment to express their ideas. Also, lack of passion. The continent cannot do for you what you can do for the continent. So it's a call to reawaken our patriotism, to also awaken that consciousness that you can actually make it from Africa. I didn't learn the production of hyper-realistic flesh covers for blasting from traveling out. I didn't travel to Asia, America, Europe, or any of that. I sat back and I said to myself, I can do this.
Yes.
I will do this. And I began doing the work. So creatives, the lesson is creatives in Africa should think of Africa, work for Africa, you understand, and solve problems for Africa, So we have creatives who are all over the world doing great job, doing beautiful things, but they've lost their identity. The African continent is suffering while we have doctors all over the world, highly placed doctors all over the world, good engineers, good architects, specialists, professionals in different fields of life. And yet the continent is regarded as being poor. Why? Because these creatives have not been attended to. These innovatives have been left to wander. They've been left to starve. They've been left alone, and it's a huge problem for the continent. So we need to solve our own problems as Africans, because it takes a black man to understand what it feels to be black. It takes a black skinned person, not really an African person. This color of your skin, you understand the color of your skin. You know what the challenges of the color of your skin are. So you would be able to create solutions based on your skin. So that's just it.
You are such an inspiration, and you have a favorite quote. Can you share that with us?
Okay. I think one of my quotes is, I'm a student of my creativity. I'm a student of creativity, and I have not assumed a master place. A whole lot of people call me master. I am not a master. I'm a slave to my passion, and I would always be a student forever. So it's a long quote. I can't quote it word for word. It's something I wrote down, but it talks about being humble, being irrespective of your status in the society. You have to be open to learning. You have to acknowledge the fact that you're still a learner in the journey of life, and no one has figured it out, and no one has been able to figure it out in whole. So that's the beauty of life. We are all learners. We are all students. We should be open up to new ideas every day, every minute of our lives.
Well, where do you go from here, John? You have so many people in the queue, right? That are on the list to get assistance. So where can we, the listeners, the audience, where can we help you? Where would you best use our services? Is it financial? Is it having volunteers, workers come? What would be the best way to assist you with all the work that you do right now?
Okay. I would love people to come out and support. I'm not really a money-driven kind of person. I'm not this kind of person that really places more importance on money. But I would love well-meaning individuals, the audience, corporate bodies to come out and invest or discuss, dialogue with myself and my company to see the way forward. How do we make these things cheaper? How do we make it affordable, accessible, to as many that demand for our service? How do we spread this business? How do we innovate? What can be added to it? What are we not doing? I'm open to learning, like I said in my quotes, and I'm open to discussions that are fruitful to the society. So the goal is to improve in whatever we do, to standardize our designs, to create quality designs that are mind-blowing, and to also industrialize what we do. We need to expand. If we have this number of guys seeking for our designs from all of these countries, we've reached over 60 countries. Like, people from about 60 countries have reached out to us demanding for our services over the years. So how do we get to reach these people? How can they afford to get these things? How do we establish a presence in a way that is closer to them? Other than traveling always to Nigeria, rather than trying to, reach out to us, and it's quite difficult. So that's basically what we should be talking about. So if there are individuals who want to sponsor, who want to invest, who want to partner, I think they can reach out to us in through any of our handles and share.
Yes.
If you want to help people, you could also reach out to us and say, okay, I want to help, and I could afford providing this for 100 people in my community, like some people have done in time past. All of those are humanitarian services, and we are open for such good meaning individuals.
And we do have your information, your Facebook for the cosmetic, Immortal Cosmetic Art, and on LinkedIn and on Instagram. Is that right? Did I miss one?
Yeah.
Because we have it down there.
Yeah. So we have a Facebook account, we have a website, we have Instagram, we have LinkedIn account. So all of that is accessible. We also have WhatsApp contacts in which people could reach out to us through messages and through calls. So
yes,
that's how it.
It has been such a pleasure interviewing you, John, and I've learned so much. I want you to leave our audience with your parting words. What would you like to leave with our audience at this point?
Yeah, I would say, especially, we should solve problems. We shouldn't just come to the world to exist. Let's not just exist. Let's go out there and look for a problem and solve it. Problems in agriculture, health-wise, engineering, whatever it is, solve a problem before you leave. Our ancestors came and they did their best. It's high time we also do our best before we leave. So, especially the Black community, I would say, should wake up to our challenges. Any challenge we find at all, we should improvise, we should innovate, we should invent. That's just it. That's the way forward. That's the only way we can be impactful and compete with the rest of the world.
Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for your hard work, your
Thank you,
creativity.
Karen.
And I'll have you back soon. So you take care. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. See you in Nigeria soon.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
Does Africa really have a problem? Don't forget I said our discussion is on solving African problems. Does Africa really have a problem? And if Africa has a problem, are we solving these challenges within the continent? And yes, Africa has a problem. Are we solving these challenges from a point of view which is African? And I'd also like us to know that solving challenges within the continent requires us being committed to all that we are doing. We have to be passionate and we have to be patriotic in our approach. There's a quote that says that he who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. And over the years, I have observed that most Africans have handed over problem solving to the hands of foreigners. And should we think this approach would yield better results? It is our place as individuals to wake up every morning to the challenges that we encounter as Africans and to look inwards to our inner abilities. I would rather say that Africa doesn't have problems but challenges. It is our place to look at these challenges and see how we could solve them within the continent. My company, Immortal Cosmetic Art, was created some years back when my brother lost some of his fingers. And it changed our mindsets and it affected us as a family and myself as an individual. The surgeons told us that we had one option, which was to purchase these prosthetic flesh covers outside the continent because that was the only place where we could have it at the time. And after waiting for months, for a very long time to have these prosthetic flesh covers given to us, what we had was something seemingly white and off-tone. What I mean by seemingly white, my brother is black, and what we had was a prosthesis which was white-skinned. And this left me to research and to look inwards, being a sculptor, on how I could solve this challenge. And after a long research, with my skill, with my diligence and self-determination, I was able to come up with what we have today as the production of hyper-realistic flesh covers for amputees who are African all over the world. I advise every African to use this approach in solving problems within the continent, to look inward. You may be a physician, whatever you are, you have to use your ability as an African to look at African challenges. I am naturally a reserved individual and I like being myself, and most of the time, one of my hobbies is cooking. And on this very day, I was at the market and a curious-looking guy approached me, and he seemed to have observed something on my face, and he was staring at me glaringly. And I was uncomfortable with it. I didn't let him land when I asked him, "Guy, how far?" He looked at me and said, "Bros, no bad." He proceeded, "I think I've seen you somewhere on TV, Al Jazeera, CNN, or BBC. You must be John Amanam, the guy who produces human parts." I turned around, I looked left, and I reluctantly said, "Yes, I am, but prosthesis, not human parts." He proceeded by asking, he says, "Guy, what do you do for Nigeria? What do you do for market?" And I was like, "Bros, where should I be? Or where am I supposed to be?" And he answered, "You're supposed to be Yankee now. Canada, UK, any of those countries, making cool cash." And I was disappointed, you know. You see, I became uncomfortable, and I replied immediately with a very upsetting tone. I said, "Guy, I'm in Nigeria solving African problems." According to the NCBI, that's USA, we have about 65,000 African-born physicians and about 70,000 African-born physicians who are, medical professionals who have been working outside the country or overseas in developed countries as at 2000, and over 7,600 trained nurses from Nigeria who had relocated as at May this year, that is 2022. And I am of this belief that contrary to what we know about the slave trade and the whole trade and African slave trade history, that slave trade was beyond just sales of humans and exchange of some kind of commodities. It had to do with skill, talented people, and people who were physically fit, you know. But today we don't have slave markets anymore. We don't have any slave markets in our societies, but Africans willingly give up themselves for profits. And we have been systematically designed or programmed to believe that nothing good can grow, survive, or remain in the continent. An average Nigerian or African thinks that there is no need staying in Africa. You can't make it in Africa. His dream is to be a citizen of a UK, one of those countries where he feels their economy, their currency would better his life. And I beg to differ. Creative people from the continent, once they discover they are progressing or they've made little progress, they feel like leaving or relocating. And I would like to ask, how many French citizens have you seen becoming Ghanaians? How many Chinese Togolese do you have? How many German Zimbabweans do you have? Africans keep seeking to become what they are not. If only Africans are given the opportunity, or creatives from the continent are able, given an enabling environment, this wouldn't have been the case. And I advise, that we work as a people to see how we could encourage creatives who are from the continent by giving them the support they require. How long, I say, would inventors from the continent, innovators from the continent, live, bid her farewell, and never return? The continent is suffering or going through what we have today because the creatives who would have remained in the continent are citizens of other continents, citizens of other countries, developing and adding value to their economies, while the continent is left to suffer. The world sees us as a means to achieve our goals. And our continent is neglected and painted primitive, while we daily and consciously present ourselves as immigrants, as helpless people, homeless and hungry refugees. Why won't the world see us the way we are? If you check around the world, wherever you see a black man, you see people talking about oppression and the rest of them, because we deliberately and consistently present ourselves as immigrants, homeless, hungry, refugees. We have refused to sit back in our lands to fix it. Everyone deserves to be where they are encouraged, supported, and empowered. And I don't have the right to blame any creative here in Africa for not remaining in their continent, because creatives in other continents are supported and retained in their countries to develop their ideas, while you find creatives from our continent left to starve with their ideas, and they definitely need to leave. So I have no right to blame anyone for leaving the continent or leaving his or her country. But we have to think while we are living. And this leaves me to ask some questions like, do we really need to be citizens of UK, Canada, or one of these countries to be able to think or create? Must we relocate to Asia or one of these countries to be able to be outstanding? It's one of those questions I would like you to ask yourself. You don't need to be citizens of foreign lands. We just need to be conscious, productive, and wake up to the everyday challenges facing the African society and create a hub where African creatives are empowered and encouraged. Africans must think for Africa. Africans must work for Africa. Africans must live for Africa. Sometimes I feel excited and I feel fulfilled when I realize I have achieved remarkable success within my community. I've been able to have achieved remarkable success because, I call it success because I have been able to help my people. I've been able to meet a need of my people first. You know, I've been able to achieve that by sitting back in my country and meeting my people's need. You see, we've met over 1,000, we've circulated over 1,000 prosthetic flesh covers to Africans all over the world, just from the city of Uyo. And this makes me to realize we don't need to relocate to be impactful to the world. We can be Africans, solving African problems in Africa and reaching the world, whether with our agents or whatever, but within Africa. So we have to remain and impact our skill, our knowledge within the continent in which we were born. So we have a whole lot going on, and the media is part of this. We need a constant and conscious media to remind the African child that civilization started in Africa, and there is a need to work on our self-esteem, not just as a superior race, but as sufficient individuals. We need the media to talk about the numerous achievements of several Africans through their innovations in different fields, like medicine and the rest of them. You talk about Philip Amegola of Africa, which is responsible for the fastest computer. You talk about Innocent Motors, which is here in Africa, produced by an African. What of Professor Mushudu? Mushudu Shifilaro of South Africa, who is responsible for the first successful middle ear transplants in the world. These are Africans, and the list goes on and on. Look, the way we present ourselves determine what the world sees us, and the children we want, the people we want our children to become. We need to start rebranding ourselves by looking at the media and our educational system. Like Burna Boy would say, he says that the African schooling system has been designed to educate our children on the history of others and not our own history. And until this is challenged and changed, we are far from the solutions we seek. It is high time African creatives are brought together, encouraged, and discouraged from fleeing from the continent. Because Africa needs us, and we need Africa. We are not mistakes becoming Africa. There is no mistake or there is no coincidence that we are Africans. So the continent needs to profit from our skill first before any other continent. I would like to borrow from the lyrics of a Nigerian musician called Asa. And she says, there is fire on the mountain, and one day the river will overflow, and there will be no place for us to go. And we'll sit back and think and regret that we would have sat back to fix up this fire or to quench the fire. One day the river would overflow. Dear Africans, let's sit back, fix our land. Africa needs us, and we need Africa. Thank you for having me.